What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and in this video we are working on the 2003 Ford F-150 and we're dealing with HVAC issues. And if you know, well, you already know. This HVAC control panel, it's all vacuum actuated. Even if you have the knobs, those are vacuum actuated too, although they will be set up a little different. Well, I forget the exact name for it, I'll put it up on the screen, but basically Ford has a name for it. This is what it's called. And it's all automatic vacuum actuated controls. So what happens is a lot of times the O-rings, it's got 4 different actuators inside that you'll see in a little bit. Those O-rings go bad, they don't seal up, and then whatever command you press here, it can't hold vacuum and achieve said command. Now, yes, you should test for vacuum to make sure it is being supplied proper vacuum, because there are so many vacuum lines running, not just throughout the dash here, but inside the engine bay. It's just a nightmare of vacuum lines in this truck. So make sure you have good vacuum. I'm going to show you in a little bit where to check, but mine has good vacuum, nice strong vacuum, so I'm good there. But the problem is it can't hold any of these functions, especially if I'm under acceleration where it loses vacuum. Then it just defaults to defrost, and that's no fun. So before we jump into fixing this, let me show you what to check vacuum wise. Now I know it's not the beginning of the source here for the vacuum, but under the dash, this should be connected or secured somewhere around there. I took it off, but underneath here you'll see this connector with vacuum lines. This black vacuum line is the main vacuum supply from the engine. You won't see it on this side because this side goes to the actuators, but this is the main vacuum supply. So pull this apart, test for vacuum. You can use any vacuum gauge. You can even use what I used is actually a pump from a self-bleeding kit. It had a vacuum gauge on it, so you could see how much vacuum you're creating for bleeding brakes. But you hook it onto this and you just let the engine pull vacuum on it. Look at the gauge, and I'm going to put the specs on the screen as to what the ideal vacuum should be for this. What you can also do is just go by the engine bay. Look at these vacuum lines right here. As you can see, I had to fix this one already because it had a crack in it, but this vacuum line is the one that leads inside the cab. You can, well, maybe you can see it, I don't know, it's tucked up in there. It goes through the firewall inside the cab. It splits off into this one, into this one. You've got vacuum actuators for 4-wheel drive if you have 4-wheel drive. And then the line goes here and over the engine, and it has like so many different ports that it connects to, as you can see right over there. Already right off the bat, you can see 3 of them. So it's kind of a mess. But you want to unplug this right here, test for vacuum at any of these points, repair any leaks that you possibly have, or replace the lines preferably. But like I said, I know mine is good. I'm getting the same amount of vacuum here as I am inside the cab. So I know that this line is supplying correct vacuum to my actuators. And to fix this issue, you need some O-rings, number 7 to be more specific. And this is the pack I got. Now you don't have to get the same one, but I will link them in the description. So there you go. 007 is the number O-ring you need. That's how they're sized, and that's what's going to fit these actuators precisely so that it seals up the best it can after you replace it. Ford, if you go to them, they're just going to want to sell you a whole new unit. You can buy it aftermarket. It's extremely expensive, several $100s or some ridiculous amount, overpriced for sure, and you can fix it. Now, you can also get one from a junkyard and hope that it works, but most likely, if it's the same age, it's going to have the same problems. So let's remove the HVAC controls. To do that, we have to remove this trim panel, the bezel that goes around it. Just pop it out. You can use trim tools if you want, or you could just, you know, pry it. Okay. You can unplug your 4-wheel drive switch if you have 4-wheel drive. Now you can get this panel out of the way, and it should have 4 7mm screws that hold this in. These lower ones are going to be a little tricky to get to, but if you kind of force your socket on there, it'll take them out. And now you should be able to pull this unit, minus having to pry on the dash. There we go. Just need to convince it, persuade it. On the back side, you'll see electrical connectors as well as an entire vacuum line connector assembly here. The vacuum one is the one that's going to be holding you up to get that out of there. Well, you'll need a socket. Looks like a 10mm socket. Fits. These shouldn't be very tight. It's just a little very flat nut holding onto a plastic stud, but it basically holds on tight onto the vacuum lines. Now you can take these and pull those away. This will let you pull this out a little more. These are the two tabs that it was basically hung up on. Unplug the two electrical connectors. There we go. Smash your wrist at the same time. And here's the control module. Looking from the back side, you see all the vacuum ports. You can test these if you want. I'm just going to open it up and start fixing it. All right, move to the tailgate so I can have a little workbench of some sort. There are two T20 screws on the back side. Once you pull those off, you should be able to get this top cover out of here. Yep. And this top cover actually contains the actuators that we want, so that's perfect. Unplug that, set this module aside, and now we have to get into these. So obviously I'm going to do them one at a time. I don't want to take everything apart and then have to put it all back together. Well, let's get a little Phillips head screwdriver and get these out of here. Okay, here we go. Let's start with this one. Let's take all these Phillips head screws out. Okay, now we can lift this up. There we go. These are now pretty much freed up. Untangle some of these wires here. These are the electrical connectors that actuate the actuators that actuate the vacuum that actuates the... Yeah, there's a lot of nonsense. Anyway, and once you get to this point, it's actually fairly easy. All you have to do is take some pliers, cutters, whatever you have, and pry the outside of these tabs. Oops. Pry the outside of these tabs. And then you can slide the actuator out through the back. Oh, come on. If you don't get the angle on these right, they don't slide out. Okay. Sometimes the spring comes out with it. There are other pieces in there too, so try to keep those in there. And this right here is the culprit. That is, wow, a rock hard O-ring. That is crazy. Solid. Like it's stiff. That's not sealing up anything at this point. So, oh yeah, that just crumbled. And it just broke. All right, let's get this out of here. It just became plastic, basically. Okay, get out of here. I'm going to take a new O-ring, put a little bit of silicone paste on it, try to work that in there. Get the O-ring over the, whatever this is called, plunger? I don't know. And then once you roll it over like this, I'm just going to apply a little bit more silicone paste, not too much, just a little. And then put it, oops, yep, there are the other pieces. Don't put this upside down. If this happens to you, you'll see this little machined hex cutout piece has a black bump on one side that sticks out and one that's flat. The one that sticks out goes down in, then the spring, and then the actuator, or you know, whatever this is. There we go. Press that on. Bend the ears back. Make sure you hold pressure on it so it actually squeezes down nice and flush. All right, and then you just repeat the process to the other ones. Oh, careful. Don't stab yourself. Okay, here we go. It's raining. Let's go inside. Put this together in there. All right, we're inside. Away from the rain. Let's get this back on here. Make sure you put it on the right way. It can really only go on one way, but you know, still make sure. Try not to pinch any of these wires. So after a lot of messing around with it, I got it to line up. It's not easy, not gonna lie, just because of all the wires that are gonna keep getting in your way. What the fuck? I'm gonna try and get some of these screws to start in here. See if they catch, and secure this panel down. I'm kind of going across so that I can seat this entire unit, entire assembly, seat it down flat, and then I'll start in the remaining ones. Okay, last two screws are for this bracket that holds down the center. Okay, this is all back together. All right, let's get these back together. So connect the actuators first onto this little white connector there. Okay, and now let's see, it goes this way. You're gonna want to flip it the right way so that these two little tabs slide into those two holes, just like that, and it should just basically sit flush, lined up, and then these two holes right here are the ones that took the two T20 screws. So let's get those back in. Tighten these. They weren't very tight to begin with, so I'm just gonna make them tight by hand, I guess, like literally by hand. Well, I guess I need a ratchet for that one. That's snug. You're only screwing into plastic, keep that in mind. These strip out very easily, so there we go. Let's plug it back in and test it out. Let's get the electrical connectors reconnected first. And the vacuum lines, which you can only plug in one direction. It's basically impossible to plug it in the wrong way. Make sure they slide on all the way. And we have very limited space here, so somehow we're gonna have to get those two little mounting nuts on. Okay, I got one. I think I got the second one too. You have to be very careful with those so that when they're actually snug, you stop. Otherwise you'll strip the studs out, those little plastic studs, and well, it's not going to work out very well. I think at this point, before we finish it up, let's test it out. In order to test these out, I actually have to undo my semi-permanent modification that I've performed here. It includes professionally installed zip ties to basically hold this actuator in the vent position. But you know, we don't talk about that, so let me get that out of there. All right, with the modification successfully unmodified, let's turn the truck on and see what happens. So let's see, got a vent. Ooh, I can hear those actuators moving so much more than I did before, and it works instantly. That is instant, that's crazy. Yep, floor, immediately engages the floor. Wow, this is, let's see, this is vent and floor, half and half. Yep, half and half. Defrost. Defrost always worked because that's a default. Like when nothing else works, it defaults to defrost. I'm gonna assume that's for safety reasons, so that if you lose all vacuum, you at least have defrost so you don't crash because you can't see. Defrost also automatically turns on the AC compressor. Let's do max AC and see if it recirculates. Yep, I heard the door. I don't think you heard it on video, but I heard the door operate Auto, what does auto want to do? I think auto should be vents. Let's turn down the, yeah, there you go. All right, so we fixed it. Go back to vent, floor. Wow. That's amazing. Yay. All right, let's button this back up. Shove this back into place here. Has a couple little pins that need to line up. There we go. Get that head unit to sit back in there. Now, if you have the original head unit, maybe it's bolted on. I don't know. Never had one in this truck. So, I like to start with the top screws first so that it can actually secure this in place. The lower ones will have to kind of jam them in there, move it around. So, I like to have it already secured before I try to do that. Let's go for this bottom one. There we go. And unfortunately I'm missing one, so I'm just gonna put in this bottom one and call it done. But if you had this top one, you would obviously put that one in as well. Take your bezel, plug in the 4-wheel drive switch, and re-secure this. This just snaps in place with clips. Make sure the clips are lined up and tap it into place. It's a simple fix and definitely worth doing, because instead of spending several $100s on a control unit, you can spend $3, $4, $5 on a set of O-rings and do the same fix basically as if it was a whole new unit. Obviously, if you have other problems with it, I would source another one and then try to fix that one, but usually these are okay except for the vacuum O-ring situation. I want to say about 8 months I drove with it broken, and it was a nightmare. It never worked properly, but I'm very excited to see what it does now. So there you have it. It works great. We are done with the installation. I am very excited to use this as it's intended to be used, really, because that zip tie wasn't really cutting it anymore. And well, it's fall now, winter is coming, and I definitely wanted all of the options for the heat and everything, so this is a perfect timing for this. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it was helpful. Leave anything you have to say in the comment section below. I'll try to get to all of your guys' comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.